Thus has he done to him and ordered him to be brought before me. And thus has he spoken. His heart did not misgive him, neither did he stir in my presence. And behold, now he is confined in prison. Here's Abraham confined in prison in a bad situation, and this situation will get worse. And therefore decide what judgment. See, he's there for judgment. What judgment is due to this man who reviled the king and who spoke and did all these things you've heard? And they all answered the king, saying, the man who reviled the king should be hanged on a tree. But having done all these things that he said, and having despised our mighty ones, see, he did this against their mighty ones. He must therefore be burned to death. For this is the law in this matter. You notice the other nations had laws. We see the nations today, they have laws. You go from country to country, the laws change. They have their own laws, doing their own things. If it please the king to do this, let him order his servant to kindle a fire both night and day in the brick furnace. So they making a fire, make it burn night and day. That's to get it really, really hot. And then we will cast this man into it. And the king did so and commanded his servants that they should prepare a fire for 3 days and 3 nights in the king's furnace, that is in Cassidim. And the king ordered them to take Abram from prison and bring him out to be burned. What a bad situation. Now my question is, your situation you're in right now, is it worse than this? None of our situations right now are worse than, if you're listening to this, our situation is not worse than this. And all the king's servants, the princes, the masters, the governors, the judges, and all the inhabitants of the land, about 100,000 men, stood opposite the furnace to see Abram. So here are a massive number of people here ready to watch Abram get burned alive. And all the women and little ones crowded upon the roof. Here they got the kids watching this. This is an execution of a righteous man they're about to so-called witness. And towers to see what was doing with Abram. And they all stood together at a distance. And there was not a man left that did not come on that day to behold the scene. It's like all of them, everybody that was around, all of them came. And when Abram had come, the conjurers of the king and the sages saw Abram, and they cried out to the king, saying, O sovereign master, surely this is the man whom we know to have been the child at whose birth the great star. When Abram was born, there was a great star. There was something that happened in the heavens. And they knew a great man had been born this day, a king. And this king would have kings come out of him. And he would devour all of the kings in the earth. And his kingship, this would last forever. Swallowing the 4 stars, and we declared to the king now 50 years since. Okay. This is Joshua 12 and 17. But Hiram did not advise his father to anything, for Terah said, this is the king in order to deliver his soul from the king. For he feared greatly. And the king said to Terah, Hiram, thy son, who advised thee to this, shall die through the fire with Abram. So the king came and asked Terah about that experience. And that baby that he killed, it was someone else's child that he killed. And here he's in trouble for this. For the sentence of death is upon him, and having rebelled against the king's desire in doing this thing. So, they didn't want Abram to be born. He didn't want Abram to live, not be born. He didn't want Abram to live. And so he wanted his father to kill him. when he was a baby, and his father killed one of the servants' baby, and that came back to haunt him. And that's what this is talking about. Joshua 12:21 through 43. And they brought both Abram and Haran, his brother, to cast them into the fire. All right, here's the situation where Abram and his brother cast into the fire. They were in a bad situation. They was in a bad position. And all the inhabitants of the land and the king's servants and princes and all the women and little ones were there, standing that day over them. And the king's servant took Abram and his brother, and they stripped, watch this, they stripped them of all their clothes, excepting their lower garments. So except for the lower garments, they took all their clothes off. They shamed them, which were upon them. And they bound their hands and feet with linen cords. And the servants of the king lifted them up and cast them both into the furnace. All right. Now, surely the people that saw this, they said, this man is finished. This man will be no more. Surely he cannot survive this fire. It is impossible. He was in a situation. He was in the worst position. He was in the worst position ever. You don't want to be in this position. The Most High have to be with you. If he's not with you in a situation like this, you're finished. And this is the example. So he cast both into the furnace. And Yahuwah loved Abram. So we know how the Most High felt about Abram. And he had compassion over him. And Yahuwah came down and delivered Abram. So we know how the Most High feel about Abram. So he loved Abram. He came down and delivered Abram from the fire. And he was not burnt. Once again, if you don't know the Most High, you're going to get burnt. We have to go through the fire. In the wilderness, we have to go through the fire. And if you don't know the Most High, you haven't done what he said, you haven't listened, you're going to get burned. But all the cords, watch this, all the cords with which they bound him, they were burnt, while Abram remained and walked about in the fire. Here is Abram walking around in the fire in a bad, it looked like he was in a bad position. But he's walking around in the fire while you're going through your problems and your troubles. Walk around in it. Walk around in it with the Most High with you. No, keep your mind, keep your eyes on the end of what's before us. Let no one stop you. So this should bring strength to us. None of our situation is this bad. And here we see the Most High with Abram. And Haran, his brother, he died. He wasn't with Haran. Haran had his chance. Just like we have our chance. He had his chance, but he didn't trust the Most High. So Haran died when they cast him into the fire, and he was burned to ashes. For his heart was not perfect with Yahuwah. His brother's heart was perfect with Yahuwah. All he had to do was be like his brother, to do the thing his brother was doing. And he had an opportunity. Abram told everyone that was around him about the Most High. Surely he told his brother. He told his father, these mighty ones can't breathe. They can't walk. They have no power. They can't save you. He told them. There's only one mighty one that created the heaven and earth and everything you see. He told his father. And because of that, here he is in a furnace of fire. And those men who cast him into the fire, the flame, and the fire spread over them, and they were burnt. So the fire was so hot, the ones that threw them in, they got burnt. And the 12 men of them died. And Abram walked in the midst of the fire 3 days and 3 nights. And all the servants in the king saw. They saw him walking in the fire. They couldn't figure out what in the world is going on. He should be dead, but he walking around in the fire. And they came and told the king, saying, Behold, we have seen Abram walking about in the midst of the fire, and even the lower garments which are put upon him are not burned, but the cord which he was bound is burned. Now, if something has bound you, you're tangled up in something, the Most High will burn it off of you. Now, this entanglement could be a husband or a wife. The Most High will burn this husband or this wife off of you, and nothing on you would burn, and this would free you. See, he was freed in the midst of this fire. You know, the scripture said he will begin to burst the bonds of the yokes that the enemies put around our neck. This is where we are today. And when the king heard their words, his heart fainted, and he would not believe them. He couldn't believe it. So he sent other righteous princes to see this matter. And they went and saw it and told it to him. So he had to have witnesses, and he got them. And the king rose to go and see. So he had to go see himself. He couldn't believe this. And he saw Abram walking to and from in the midst of the fire. He saw it for himself. Some people don't believe. And you have to see things for yourself. Yahushua said, Barak are those who believe and have not seen. And some people, they need to see. I need to see his power. I need to see what they saw. Barak is those who believe and have not seen. And he saw Haran's body burned. And the king wondered greatly. He couldn't figure this out. And the king ordered Abram to be taken out of the fire. Why? Because he's afraid. This man gonna come out and kill me. He ordered him. Now he want to be friends now. He ordered him to come out of the fire. This fire can't kill him. This relationship can't kill you. You understand what the Most High is showing here? Your problems can't kill you. You should have been dead. But you're still here. It didn't kill you. And his servants approached to take him out, and they could not. For the fire was round about, and the flame ascending toward them from the furnace. They couldn't even get him out. They got it too hot. And the king's servant fled from it. And the king rebuked them, saying, Make haste and bring Abram out of the fire, that you shall not die. In other words, I'm going to kill you if you don't get him out of there. He's afraid and he want him out. And the servants of the king again approached to bring Abram out, and the flames came upon them and burnt their faces, so that 8 of them died. And when the king saw that his servants could not approach the fire, lest they should be burnt, the king called to Abram. See, when the Most High got you, can't nobody get you out of this situation. No one can get you out of this situation when the Most High had you. And the servant said, look, watch this. Oh, servant, look what he said. The king called to Abram. But watch what he says. Oh, servant of the mighty one who is in Shamayim. See, he knew who Abraham's mighty one was because Abraham proclaimed it. And he told them that all their mighty ones was nothing. And this is why he was in trouble. So he already knew who Abraham's mighty one was. The creator of Shamayim and earth and everything that we see. He says, go forth from the midst of the fire and come here before me. And Abram hearkened to the voice of the king, and he went forth from the fire and came and stood before the king. You see the mighty one we serve. You understand the mighty one we serve. The Most High command us, come forth out of the land of Babylon. Come forth out of the fiery furnace. Come forth, my people, out of these relationships. You in relationships that wasn't set up by the Most High. You are bound up with a wicked person. The Most High said, come out of these wicked relationships. And watch where your life goes. Watch where your life will end up. He does not want us in a wicked relationship. Oil and water does not mix. Righteousness and unrighteousness does not mix. Light and dark will never mix. One comes, the other leaves.